जनरञ्जन यशोधनन् यशोधनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन
Ja Thank you very much for coming for today's Bhagavatam class. As you know, today is my first ever Bhagavatam class. So I beg for everyone's blessings so that I may speak something of relevance and that you can take something from this class today. So we are reading today from the 4th canto, 29th chapter, verse number 55. Svatam vichaksham brigam cheshritam atmanuntas.
Svatam vichaksham brigam cheshritam atmanuntas.
Chittam niyachariti karna dharim dhachachite.
Chittam niyachariti karna dharim dhachachite.
Yahyangranashramam asattam ghatam.
Jayanganashramam asattam
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Svatam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Svatam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Yahyangranashramam asattam ghatam.
Jayanganashramam asattam ghatam.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Svatam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Svatam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Yahyangranashramam asattam ghatam.
Jayanganashramam asattam ghatam.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Devotees.
Sattvam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Sattvam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Jayanganashramam asattam ghatam.
Jayanganashramam asattam ghatam.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena. Mataris.
Sattvam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Sattvam vichaksham mrigacheshritam atmanuntas.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Chittam niyachariti karna dhunim cha chitte.
Jayanganashramam asattam ghatam.
Jayanganashramam asattam ghatam.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Prinihamsa sharanam virama kramena.
Sattvam
Sattvam vichakshya mrigacheштitamatmanantash.
Sattvam vichakshya mrigacheштitamatmanantash.
Chitam niyacha hridikarna dhunim cha chitte.
Chitam niyacha hridikarna dhunim cha chitte.
Jahyanganashramamasattamayuttagatam.
Jahyanganashramamasattamayuttagatam.
Trinihi hamsa sharanam viramakrmena.
Trinihi hamsa sharanam viramakrmena. So then we go to the word by word translation. Sa, that very person. Tvam, you. Vichakshaya, considering. Mrigacheshtitam, the activities of the deer. Atmanaha, of the self. Antaha, within. Chittam, consciousness. Niyacha, fix. Hridhi, in the heart. Karnadhunim, oral reception. Cha, and. Chitte, unto the consciousness. Yahi, give up. Angana ashramam, household life. Asattama, most abominable. Yuttaghatam, full of stories of a man and woman. Prinihi, just accept. Hamsa Sharanam, the shelter of the liberated souls. Virama, become detached. Kramena, gradually. Translation by His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear King, just try to understand the allegorical position of the deer. Be fully conscious of yourself and give up the pleasure of hearing about promotion to heavenly planets by fruitive activity. Give up household life, which is full of sex, and well as stories about such things. And take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the mercy of the liberated souls. In this way, please give up your attraction for material existence. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Mandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadhaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamsha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Name Gaura Tvishe Namaha Namo Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavati Tashatya Deshatarini Panchalatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktaryam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripe He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mate Mate Ghati Matsarvasya Patam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohana Divya Vrindavanaranya Kalpa Dhrumadaha Srimad Ratnaghara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Pratishta Bhi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasrasarambi Vamsi Vatatatastita Kashan Venus Vanai Gopi Gopinata Shistuna Vancha Kalpadharu Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Ghora Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I just realized I forgot to read the purport. So I'm going to do that now. So purport. In one of his songs, Sri Narottam Das Thakur writes, Karma Kanda Jnana Kanda Kevala Vishera Bhanta Amrita Bhalya Yeba Kaya Nana Yoni Sadaspire Khata Ya Bhakshana Kare Tara Janmi Adapati Yaya. Fruitive activities and mental speculations are simply cups of poison. Whoever drinks of them, drinking them to be nectar, must struggle very hard, life after life, in different types of bodies. Such a person eats all kinds of nonsense and becomes condemned by his activities of so-called sense enjoyment. People are generally enamored of the fruitive results of worldly activities and mental speculation. They generally desire to be promoted to heavenly planets, merge into the existence of Brahman, or keep themselves in the midst of family life, enchanted by the pleasures of the tongue and genitals. The great sage Narada clearly instructs King Brahisman not to remain in his entire life in the Grihastha Ashrama. Being in the Grihastha Ashram means being under the control of one's wife. One has to give up all this and put himself into the ashram of Paramahamsa. That is, put himself under the control of spiritual master. The Paramahamsa ashram is the ashram of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, under whom the spiritual master has taken shelter. The symptoms of the bona fide spiritual master are stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jin Janushu Jignashu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Parecha Nishnatam Brahmani Upashamshayam. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of these conclusions. Such great personalities, who have taken complete shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material consideration, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. But a Paramahamsa is one who has taken shelter of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one takes shelter of the Paramahamsa, the spiritual master, gradually, through training and instruction, he will become detached from worldly life and ultimately return home, back to Godhead. The particular mention of Anganashramam Asatama Yuttagatam is very interesting. The whole world is in the clutches of Maya, being controlled by woman. Not only is one controlled by the woman who is one's wife, but one is also controlled by so many sex literature. That is the cause of one's being entangled in the material world. One cannot give up this abominable association through one's own effort, but if one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, who is a Paramahamsa, he will gradually be elevated to the platform of spiritual life. The pleasing words of the Vedas that inspire one to elevate oneself to the heavenly planets or merge into the existence of Supreme are for the less intelligent, who are described in Bhagavad Gita as Mayaya Pahrita Jnana, those whose knowledge is taken away by the illusory energy. Real knowledge means understanding the miserable condition of material life. One should take shelter of a bona fide liberated soul, the spiritual master, and gradually elevate himself to the spiritual platform and thus become detached from the material world. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, Hamsa Sharanam refers to the cottage in which saintly persons live. Generally, a saintly person lives in a remote place in the forest or in a humble cottage. However, we should note that the times have changed. It may be beneficial for a saintly person's own interest to go to the forest and live in a cottage, but if one becomes a preacher, especially in the Western countries, he has to invite many classes of men who are accustomed to living in comfortable apartments. Therefore, in this age, a saintly person has to make proper arrangements to receive people and attract them to the message of Krishna consciousness. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, perhaps for the first time, introduced motor cars and palatial buildings for the residence of saintly persons, just to attract the general public in big cities. The main fact is that one has to associate with a saintly person. In this age, people are not going to search out a saint in the forest, so the saints and sages have to come to the big cities and make arrangements to receive the people in general, who are accustomed to the modern amenities of material life. Gradually, such persons will learn that palatial buildings or comfortable apartments are not at all necessary. The real necessity is to become free from material bondage in whatever way possible. According to the orders of Srila Rupa Goswami, Anashaktya Vishayan Yatarhan Upayunjataha Nirbhanda Krishna Sambande Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-255. One should not be attached to material opulence, but material opulence may be accepted in Krishna conscious movement to facilitate the propagation of the movement. In other words, opulence may be accepted as yukta vairagya, that is, for renunciation. So in this purport, when we look at it from the beginning on, Prabhupada first quotes Narottam Das Thakur, and there he says that this is like these fruitive activities and mental speculation are like 2 cups of poison, meaning whoever drinks it, he will be struggling life after life. And Narottam Das Thakur, in this song, which is by the way Vachanera Agochara, there he describes the mood of why a soul is not worshipping Radha and Krishna, why he's struggling in this material world, going here, there, and everywhere, and doing so many things. Then in this song he mainly focuses about how one should serve Radha and Krishna in this human form of life, and that this is actually the essence of this human form of life. And then we can see here, this is a conversation between Narada Muni and Prajnabarhi. So Narada Muni sees that Prajnabarhi is struggling, meaning he's still in Grihastha ashram, his kids have already left, he's still maintains still in Grihastha ashram, and he's doing a lot of karmakandic activities. So Narada Muni here heavily actually encourages him to move on. He says several times, this is full of misery, and give up this house of life, as in the translation he mentions. We'll read it again. Give up house of life, which is full of sex, as well as stories about such things, and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the mercy of the liberated souls. So then he also makes this point of taking shelter of liberated souls, meaning saintly person, in other words, guru. And then there's this allegory of the deer. I'll just quickly quote that. So basically a deer is gazing in the grass and enjoying with his mate, and his ears are attracted to the songs of swarms of bumblebees. He moves about without considering the hungry tiger in front of him, and the hunter is right behind him, ready to shoot him with the arrows. So the meaning of this is, a man who is absorbed in house of life, in the company of his wife, is thinking of sex life, basically. And he enjoys the talks of his wife and children. That's the bees, the bumblebees, basically. And then he's enjoying house of life. He forgets that time is before him and taking away his lifespan. So the tiger, in this case, represents the time. And the death is waiting to kill them from behind. Meaning that this hunter is right there, waiting just for the moment where he can kill the deer. So here we can see that most of the time we are not really conscious about these factors in house of life, as mentioned here, because the Grihastha ashram, it's usually, they say it's comfortable and a lot of distraction is there. So it's hard for one to practice his spiritual practice. As for, I found this purport from Prabhupada in Srimad Bhagavatam, where he describes a bit how actually one proceeds to Grihastha ashram in the Vedic way. It's in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 2nd canto, 7th chapter, verse number 6. Prabhupada writes there, the brahmachari, or a boy from the age of 5 years, especially from the higher castes, namely from the scholarly parents, in brackets the Brahmins, the administrative parents, the Kshatriyas, or the mercantile or productive parents, the Vaishyas, is trained until 25 years of age under the care of a bona fide guru or teacher. And under strict observance of discipline, he becomes to understand the values of life, along with taking specific training for a livelihood. The brahmachari is then allowed to go home and enter household life and get married to a suitable woman. But there are many brahmachari who do not go home to become householders, but continue the life of Naishtika brahmacharis without any connection with women. They accept the order of sannyas or the renounced order of life, knowing well that combination with women is unnecessary burden that checks self-realization, since sex desire is very strong at a certain stage of life. The guru may allow the brahmachari to marry. This license is given to a brahmachari who is unable to continue the way of Naishika brahmacharya. And such discriminations are possible for the bona fide guru. So actually in this purport it's quite heavy. It's like heavy brahmachari preaching in the sense of it's almost like put in a way that women are bad and stay brahmachari in that sense. But I think one has to understand that brahmacharya, especially Naishika brahmacharya, is not for a thing for everyone, not for ordinary people. Because as we can see, one of the most famous examples for Naishika brahmacharya is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And when we read his biography, we can see how serious he was about brahmacharya and how strictly he followed his sadhana and everything. So being like him is barely impossible, but of course there are some rare examples for Naishika brahmacharya, but here in this purport it's like quoted how the Vedic way of brahmacharya used to be. But as we know, the household life, once one enters the household life, comes with many duties, many difficulties. And I just lately saw a video title of Bhakti Vikash Maharaj saying Grihastha ashram is full of miseries or something like that. So, or the problems in Grihastha ashram. So, I haven't listened to the lecture, maybe I should have. But yeah, so it definitely comes with a lot of challenges and responsibility. And there's also a certain expectation from you when you're a grihastha, meaning, actually, I also read something about one has to give 50% of his income to the temple and do some service and stuff like that. So it's like quite a lot of responsibility. And as for in grihastha ashram, it might be difficult to make spiritual progress because you have so many things to take care of, and you are barely able to do your sadhana. So that's why I guess brahmacharya is so much emphasized for self-realization, because all you do is focus on Krishna and serve the Lord all day long and stay connected with the Lord. And in grihastha life it's also possible, but depends on what kind of mindset you are. If you go to work and see that service, it's already different, because then you're again connected with the Lord. But if you don't see things in that way, then probably, I guess, might be more difficult to make spiritual progress. As for in a brahmacharya ashram, it's way easier. But some plus points also in grihastha ashram is maybe that you learn tolerance, because you have to have a lot of patience. And you get really in the mood to learn how to serve. Because children, they need all the time, they need your attention, you have to be ready to serve and do everything. So I guess there's also some good things about grihastha ashram. So then Prabhupada also mentions the symptoms of the bona fide spiritual master. And then he says, as bona fide spiritual master has realized the conclusion of the scriptures, and he basically his duty is to convince others, namely his disciples and also not disciples, from the conclusion of the scriptures. And I found another purport in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 7th chapter, verse number 43. Prabhupada says there, according to the revealed scriptures, a teacher or a spiritual master is liable to be rejected if he proves himself unworthy of the position of guru or spiritual master. A guru is called also an acharya, or a person who is personally assimilated all the essence of Shastra and has helped his disciples to adopt the ways. So here Prabhupada clearly states that he has to help his disciples to adopt the ways, meaning he will instruct the disciples, he will guide the disciples and the disciples are also meant to follow with their whole heart. Meaning, whatever the Guru says, they have to actually follow accordingly. And there is also one point of, many say nowadays, or previously was, in the Vedic times, was like, mostly the Brahmanas were acharyas and Shudras they were just in the background and they were like rejected, and there was no chance for them to be in a state of being guru or whatever, in a higher position in that sense. But then again, I was able to find a purport from Prabhupada where he states that actually Sutta Goswami has not taken birth in a Brahmin family, but yet in Naimisharanya they gave him the seat and they invited him to speak. He was actually mixed caste, I think, and from a lower family in that sense. But because he had the association of Sukadev Goswami and heard from him, the great rishis from Naimisharanya, they invited him to speak. So birth, in that sense, in an inferior caste is not a disqualification to speak about the Lord. Meaning, and here Prabhupada states, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages, and by his transcendental association, he elevated many low-born or those disqualified by birth or action to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmin or a Shudra by birth, or a householder or a mendicant in the order of society, if he is conservant with the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. So here again Prabhupada writes that it doesn't matter who you are, but if you are conservant with the science of Krishna, you are able to be accepted as an acharya or a guru. Meaning the caste, the birth doesn't really matter. And then in Chaitanya Charitamrita 8:128, it says, Kipa vipra kipa nyasi shudra kenanaya ve Krishna tattva veta se guruhaya. A person may be a Brahmin or a Shudra or a sannyasi, but if he happens to be well versed in the science of Krishna, then he is fit to become a spiritual master. And then Prabhupada further explains, the qualification then of a spiritual master is not to be a qualified Brahmin, but to be well versed in the science of Krishna. One who is conservant with Vedic wisdom is a Brahmin, and only a Brahmin who is a pure Vaishnava and knows all the intricacies of the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master. And I also noticed in the purport of this verse, Prabhupada quite emphasized the importance of Guru, meaning that he tells here that without the Guru one is barely able to make any spiritual progress. And I have actually four stories, but I don't know if I'm able to make it in time, of disrespecting or disobeying the orders of the spiritual master, meaning not following the spiritual master in that sense. So one story is in Ramayana actually, of Sita Devi and Lakshman. So in the forest, when Sita Devi, Lakshman and Ramachandra, they were living in this cottage in Naimisharanya, and then Ravana tries to kidnap Sita and comes with his uncle. And his uncle has some mystic powers of being able to turn into any animal possible, but also animals which don't exist in that way. So he chose the golden deer, and he comes in front of Sita and so he comes in front of Sita and walks through the forest trying to attract her. So then Sita, for the first time ever, she asked Lord Ramachandra, can I please have this deer? I never saw such a beauty. And then Ramachandra, of course, being a perfect husband, first time his wife ever asked him something, he goes and tries to catch the deer. But then Lakshman all along he knew such a thing doesn't exist in the creation, this must be a demon. But yet Ramachandra goes. And then after a while, Ramachandra follows this deer and he kills it. He was able to shoot the arrow, but then the deer, which is actually the demon, he starts to scream out Lakshman in the voice of Ramachandra. So, meaning that Lakshman and Sita, they think that actually Ramachandra is crying out for help. But then Lakshman, of course, knew that Ramachandra is not defeated so easily by anyone, and he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he tells Sita Devi to not to worry. But then she gets really frustrated and says like some pretty severe things, like I know that you want the kingdom of Ayodhya, you just want to enjoy me after Ramachandra is dead, and things like that. So she's disrespecting Lakshman quite a lot. And after that, Lakshman says, I would rather go than hearing to this. So what he does, he draws his line around the cottage and instructs Sita Devi not to leave this cottage no matter what happens. And then he leaves to search for Ramachandra. And then a while later, Ravana comes, and in the form of a Brahmin, begging, doing madhukari. And then he stands right before Sita Devi outside of the cottage, and then Sita Devi, in the Vedic times, you don't invite any Brahmins into the cottage when the husband is not home, so she tells him to wait outside. And then, as she brought it, she asked him to come and get it, because otherwise she had to cross the line. But then Ravana gets upset and says, I will curse your whole dynasty and all of these things. And then eventually she feels like threatened or blackmailed. And then she goes out to give Ravana the fruits and vegetables, and then he grabs her and kidnaps her. So in this instance we can see two things. First of all, she's Lakshman, of course, is Anantashesha, in other words, Balaram, and in other words, he's Guru Tattva. So what she does is basically disrespecting Guru, first of all, and then she's also disobeying his orders, because he told her not to cross the line he drew, but she still did it. And as a reaction for her offense, in the end, what happened? She got kidnapped by Ravana and was held there for a whole year in separation from Ramachandra. So these actions had like severe reactions to it. And then the second story is also in Ramayana. A bit later, when Ramachandra and Lakshman, they go to search after Sita, they arrive at the Rishyamukha mountain where the monkey king Sugriva is. And then he also has some trouble with his brother, Vali, who is now the king of Kishkinda. And their quarrel is that once upon a time a demon came during night time to challenge Vali. And then Vali decided to fight, because he never backs a fight. And then he went during night time, but then his wife stopped him, and then eventually he still wanted to fight, and then Sugriva tagged along with him, just to protect him and just to make sure everything is fine. So they both go, and this demon, at some point he realizes he has no chance, so he runs into a cave, and Vali follows him there and tells Sugriva to stay outside and wait for him till he comes. So Vali was in there for almost a year, and then after a year, blood comes running out of the cave. So Sugriva thinks maybe Vali is dead, and then he blocks the whole of the cave with a big stone so that the demon is not able to come out. And then he goes back to the kingdom and is crowned as a king. But as soon as he's crowned as a king, Vali comes back and is really angry and thought Sugriva did this on purpose, just to try to steal the kingdom. So that was their quarrel, and he was of course beat and sent away by Vali, and he also took Sugriva's wife. So this is the situation where they find Sugriva, and then Ram agrees to help Sugriva to fight his brother Vali. And then in this instance, Sugriva just talks to Ramachandra and kind of disregards Lakshman. And then the first fight happens between Sugriva and Vali, and Ramachandra does nothing. Of course, he's the Supreme Personality of God, that he knows who Sugriva is, but he still chooses not to do anything. And then Sugriva comes back wounded and injured, and then Lord Ramachandra tells Lakshman to put a garland on Sugriva so that they know who Sugriva is and who Vali is, because both of them look identical. So then in the second fight, when this happened, both of them, Ramachandra shot Vali, and then Vali left his body there. And here we can see Sugriva had the mercy of the Supreme Lord, but disregarded Lakshman, who's again Guru Tattva. And in the first fight, even though Lord Ramachandra knew who Sugriva was, he still decided not to intervene. And then in the second fight, as soon as he got the mercy of Guru in the form of a garland, Ramachandra chose to act. So here we can really see how important Guru is, the importance of Guru to go home back to God, and then be in connection with the Lord, and have this loving exchange with the Lord. So as a last point, I would like to mention the point of Yukta Vairagya, which was also mentioned in the purport. I was also once again listening to Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, and then someone asked this question, what is Yukta Vairagya, Maharaj? And then Maharaj started to quote, talking about the biography of Gaurkishore Das Babaji, that he had such high standards. If someone would come and ask for initiation from him, he would just beat them with the umbrella and stuff like that. So, and then he said, actually, Bhakti Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he never really did some active preaching, but his life was a preaching. So in that sense, he said, first we have to know what Vairagya is, and by reading the biography of Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, we know that we can really see what Vairagya is. And then he said also, Yukta Vairagya is, if we live our life like Gaurkishore Das Babaji and add the preaching, that is Yukta Vairagya. So, just kind of interesting, so I wanted to mention that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening. Are there any comments?
I want to add some point about Sutta Goswami. You told about qualification of Guru, and Sutta Goswami, he was a Guru, but he have blessing by Lord Balarama, because Sutta Goswami is son of Ramaharshana Sutta. When Lord Balarama killed Ramaharshana Sutta, Rishi told him, we add him to give a class of Srimad Bhagavatam, but you kill him. Please do something. But son is как продолжение отца. Continuation of his father. And besides it, he blessed his son, Sutta Goswami, to give this class. And Sutta means caste of mixed Kshatriyas and Vaishya. So father of Ramaharshana Sutta was Kshatri, and mother is Brahmini, and it's not so pure caste, and besides it, it's called Sutta, I think. And just a little point, Harish.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to share a few days ago, somebody shared with me His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj shared a few points on Grihastha life. I thought I'd share it. So of course it's an excerpt from a letter he wrote to one of my god family. And this was written in 2014, and he writes, maybe I read it, it doesn't take very long. On this very special day of your life, I want to wish you all my best wishes and heartfelt blessings. Both of you are very dear to me, and I sincerely wish that you enter in your household life with the noble mission of setting an ideal example, of jointly becoming engaged in the service of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. The world today needs such example to counteract the extremely unpleasant influence of this very degraded age. It gives me great pleasure to see how sincerely both of you have accepted your spiritual life. Please continue together on this path with undeviated sincerity and commitment. Always remember that Krishna is your ultimate shelter, and mold your life with him as the center. You can be rest assured that he will reward you most wonderfully. A few suggestions for your spiritual life. First, try to chant your rounds in the morning before your day begins. Begin your day by chanting the holy name of Krishna. Second, read Srila Prabhupada's book regularly, if possible together. Third, associate with good and exemplary devotees, and you also become exemplary in your devotional service. Yours in the service of Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Swami. So I found it very nice. He gives like 3 points on how to become a good grihastha.
Yeah, I just remembered something which Guru Maharaj shared with me once. He told me the key for a perfect grihastha life is the woman has to be chaste and the man has to be a first-class man, meaning he has to be a Brahmin / a Vaishnava. So if that's the case, grihastha life will be successful. Just wanted to share that. It just came to my mind now. Okay. Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanande
Hari Bol. Ajay Krishna Prabhu ki
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
I want to get the tune of Guru Krishna and Siddhartha Very nice lecture. Yesterday your mom told me, you must speak from the Ramayana. It's not Ramayana. Yeah, without Ramayana, Ajay is incomplete.
I have 2 more from Mahabharata.
Remember the name of what's the name of the view?
собираю словечки. Ну, реально так, уже некоторые понимаю, что в словечке.
Oh yeah, I forgot
But
to
it's
mention
thinking of one of the vasos.
Yeah, one of the Marici.
Okay.